I will now call the January 22nd, 2013 Blue Springs City Council meeting to order. We will stand, observe a moment of silence, and then I will lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. I want to welcome those of you in attendance as well as those that might be watching on cable TV 7 to tonight's City Council meeting. The next item is the consent agenda. There are items that need to be pulled. If not, I accept a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Cobell?
Aye.
Councilman Levesey?
Aye.
Councilman Fowler?
Aye.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Bowerman?
Aye.
Carried unanimously.
Next, we have a presentation by Chairman Tom Eckert with the Public Safety Citizens Advisory Board. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, councilmen and city staff. Make sure it's turned. Members of the audience here this evening.
Would you hold up, Tom? Let's make sure this microphone is on.
Oh, okay. All right.
Now you're ready.
Well, yeah, high-tech stuff here. But I've got a few other members of the board that are here with me this evening. Emil Spears, who is the vice chair of the board, and Janet Black, who acts as our secretary and our scribe, does a great job of taking the minutes and getting them back out to us each month. The other members of the board, as you well know, are Chuck Zuvers and Melody Christman, who are not here with us this evening, as well as Lee Miller. Our student representative this year is a young man, Logan Smith from South, who joined us at the beginning of the school year, and he followed in the footsteps of Heather Keaton, who was with us through the summer, and is now off attending school at Yale. So we also had a change during the year in our council liaison. Grant Bowerman was with us up until June, and we enjoyed working with Grant every month and miss his input. But Kit Edmondson stepped into his shoes, and we're chugging right along, and we enjoy working with Kent just as well. First off, we got to talk about, I guess, what we call a little bit of old business. A couple of items that are actually back from your task force, Mr. Mayor, that kind of started this whole thing, and in which Emil chaired. I was privileged to be able to participate in a couple of things this year that were related to those items. And the first one was a Kulea Accreditation. In July, I met Chief McCoy and Sergeant DeMoe and one of our DSOs, Terry Sandlin, out in Scottsdale, Arizona, and was able to participate in the morning sessions there, where each one of the agencies got to be screened by or grilled, more in some cases, by the examiners before they conferred their accreditation on it. It was a very interesting experience for me, and like I say, I was proud to be able to represent the board and our community. But I was so proud of our people. We were one of the very few agencies that were in the room that morning that were accredited without some kind of condition attached to their accreditation. We sat through 24 presentations about that morning, and that was just a small portion of them. They had it broken up into several different sessions, but agency after agency got up and talked about how the woes that they're having to lay off people and not having any funds to grow their apartments and with the people and the equipment they needed. And when they heard us talk about us having a public safety sales tax with no sunset on it, they just absolutely couldn't believe it. And we really were probably the envy of the whole conference there with the the fact that we had that funding source plus that kind of community support, which most of the agencies there just couldn't say that they had. So that was really interesting and very gratifying to hear that we worked so hard for that, and it really is paying off for us. The other thing that I was invited and again was honored to be able to participate in as a representative of the community and as the council and or the board and more or less a representative of the men and women of our police department was the interview process for our deputy chief again, which was one of the items that was on that list of things that the task force recommended was the filling of that position. But every month since the tax was passed, we immediately became charged with overseeing the spending of those funds to make sure that they were spent the way that they said that they would be spent in a timely manner, as we promised the public, as we went virtually door to door to get their support to get that passed. We get monthly updates from the chief on the status of various projects, and we get financial input from Christine every month to tell us where the money is how it's coming and going. And we're proud to say that a lot of that whole project there, the whole concept that we put forth is well underway. It's just a fun and it's exciting times from a police department standpoint. The first we had it broken down as we presented it into 3 different components: the radio system, personnel, and facilities and equipment. And as far as the radio system is concerned, I know you all are probably all aware that is in, and it was on time and it was under budget. Not only that, which was good. I think we actually turned it on. If I remember, the date was November the 12th that they made that cutover, and begins testing in November. And during that period of time, it demonstrated that we had 100% coverage. Testing areas the size of city blocks throughout the city with using both radio personnel and some of our volunteers in police service. So where we've had so many shortfalls and so many reports of officers not being able to talk on the old radio system and dead spots and everything else, the new system, it not only sounds good, but gives us 100% coverage. The VIPs, by the way, did help on a couple of different facets related to some of the stuff that went on last year. Like I said, they did help with the testing, but they also were involved in the inventory of all the equipment as it came in, and they relayed the cars to Cominco's temporary installation site over at CJC's garage to get the new radio equipment actually swapped out and put in the cars. A little bit earlier, they also relayed the vehicles over to Olathe to get the new digital camera systems put in them well. So we've got a lot of support from our volunteers in regards to these things. One of the big goals in installing the new radio system was interoperability, and full interoperability is expected by the end of the month. Right now, we're interoperable with KCMO, Missouri Department of Transportation, Tactical Independence Police, Prairie Township Fire, and CJC. Independence Police is really the last piece of that, and just as soon as they make some additions and improvements to their equipment, that they will be on board as well. The next component we talked about, represented was the Perth Personnel, and we put forth that we would like to add 17 positions to our police department, and are proud to report that all 17 of those positions have been filled. We have a new radio system specialist, Chris Flathers, who's been very involved from day one with the radio project. We've got 9 police officers that have been hired. 2 of those positions will ultimately be the 2 street crimes units detectives that were part of our package. As soon as some training is completed and we can start, and we can make those transitions available. The deputy chief position, as you all well know, has been filled by Major Bob Muntz. We have an animal control position that has been filled, that was part of the PSST. 4 DSOs are on board, and an additional evidence custodian have all been hired and are on the payroll. The last piece is facilities and equipment. As you well know, I'm sure, the building expansion renovation project is being overseen by Burns at McDonald, and as the owner's representative and trainer architects. As part of our public forum in November, those 2 groups made a presentation to kind of bring us up and give the opportunity to the community to kind of be brought up to speed as to where that project stands. The timeline, of course, has been established for completion sometime in 2014, and these folks have really hit the ground running. Employee input questionnaires and workshops were completed in December. On-site visits to current PD facilities were being conducted also in January by the firms that are associated with the architects for planning. There are additional workshops that are scheduled and or have been completed in January to review other police facilities, North Kansas City PD and Shawnee PD, and then on-site reviews of other police departments that these groups have been involved in North Aurora and Romeo PDs and Illinois were scheduled. And you guys, that was the 15th that you were going on, right? Those are, and of course they're having weekly progress meetings to keep all the balls in the air and make sure that things go as scheduled. Just from the money standpoint, just real quickly, in the fiscal year 2011-2012, we had budgeted $2,350,000. We actually received $2,554,139, which is 109% of what was budgeted. In the fiscal year 2012-13, we have budgeted $3,096,609. The first 3 months of the year, we had budgeted $735,928 and have received $726,402. So it's a little bit short. We're like 98.71%, but Christine assures us there's nothing to worry about. That it's only 1.29%, so we know that she's not concerned, at least at this point in time. So neither are we. Some of the other things that we worked on during the year, although of course the public safety sales tax oversight is our primary focus, we are also kind of in charge of reviewing animal control ordinances and traffic ordinances, and we did a little bit of that this year. We did present to you all a recommendation that we offer the residents of Blue Springs the option of being able to vaccinate their animals either every 1 year or every 3 years, and that was passed by you all. We had a request to look at revising the ordinances to allow backyard chickens, which a lot of communities we found, to our surprise, were doing, and not only surprised they're doing it, but the numbers of chickens that they were allowing people to keep. After a lot of research and discussion, we decided not to recommend that we do that. We looked at issues regarding parking of trailers on city streets, We have requests through one of the councilmen, one of his constituents, to look at some no parking signs in one residential area. We were requested to review the city noise ordinance, and we did make a recommendation, which you all did adopt and revise that ordinance. Most recently, we got a request to take a look, again, it's an animal control issue regarding animals being chained. And after, again, researching that, decided that the ordinances that we have in place were sufficient, and there really wasn't any need for us to ask you all to come up with a new ordinance or revise the ones that were there. We did, in one of our meetings, a question was asked about the DARE program and why that quit with elementary school and did not carry over into the middle schools and senior high. And in order to try to just get us up to that program, up to speed on that program, the chief arranged for us to have a presentation by our campus law enforcement education officers, or two of them, Charlie Waits and Ralph Covington, in July. And that was really pretty enlightening to find out just that it's not limited just to the elementary schools, that there are programs for the other grades as well. And they talked about some of the concerns that they face every day as far as marijuana candy and bath salts and some of the things that they face on a day-to-day basis in our schools, which we found to be very interesting. We did again have our annual public forum in November this year. We've tried to start each one of them with some kind of informational session, and this year we asked that the representatives from Burns and McDonald make a presentation on the status of the building project, which is what we kicked the meeting off. And then we put forth three questions, one regarding the enforcement of traffic ordinances, or animal control, and the final one just the general provision of services in the city. These meetings, and we've always taken it as a positive thing, have not been huge throngs of people there, which we take as a good thing, that if people weren't happy with the way public safety was in the city, we were sure we'd have a room full of people wanting to express their concerns and ask us questions. The fact that we don't have large audiences, I think, speaks to the job that Chief McCoy and all of his people do, and the public's surveys, the feedback that we've gotten regarding the public's perception of the job that is being done by the department as well. This year's meeting was attended by several of our officers, which we like to see. And at the end of the meeting, they went out of their way really to come up and express their appreciation for the job that the board does, and that really meant an awful lot to all of us. We love to have their input. Sergeant Stacy Edwards has become kind of a regular figure at our monthly meetings, and I know he feeds back what he hears there back to his guys in briefings, and I know they appreciate it. We appreciate it as well. And then actually, I guess it's a piece of old business too that we haven't forgotten. We know, Mr. Mayor, that one of your interests is in a motorcycle unit for the police department. We did actually ask Chief to do some preliminary work on, researching grants that were available for police motorcycles, and we started that process. But knowing that it wouldn't be a high priority for the 2013 budget, we really didn't push it a whole lot. Plus, he said that'd be a good job for the deputy chief when he got on board. So. So we haven't forgotten it, and it will be something that we will be looking at this year, as well as a couple of other things that have already made its way onto our radar. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you all might have.
Are there any questions from the council to Chairman Eckert? Councilman Fowler?
Yes, Your Honor. Not really so much a question as feedback. Thank you for your service, and thank all the commissioners for their volunteerism and their service to the community. I don't think we've seen this much activity in public volunteerism from the public, that I can recall in 20 years. So it's definitely at a heightened quantity right now. We appreciate everything you do. You're an independent body, and we appreciate hearing the assets that you communicate, and also any concerns or risks that are frankly have to be discussed as well. So we appreciate the feedback and all the good things that the commission does.
Thank you, Ron.
Yeah, thank you. Councilman Edmondson?
And just as a word of note, you probably have noticed that we have our new patrol car on the street with the new graphics package,
Yes.
and my compliments to the staff for picking that out. It's a very nice-looking package, so.
Very good. I think we all echo those same comments that Councilman Fowler indicated, that we do appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you, Mayor.
The pay isn't that
We're
great,
looking for an increase this year.
We'll have to consider that during the next budget. No, it's all volunteerism, and we really appreciate it, and you do it out of the goodness of your hearts for the betterment of this community, and we really appreciate what you do. But I do have one brief question.
Yes, sir.
On operability, I didn't hear you mention the Jackson County Sheriff Department and the Missouri Highway Patrol.
Chief, or Dan, can you guys help me out
Yes,
there?
Missouri Highway Patrol is not online. Mayor, Missouri Highway Patrol is not online with the P25 digital system yet. They're still working on that for the
Okay.
state. And then who else was it you mentioned?
Jackson
I'm sorry.
County Sheriff Department.
Sheriff's Department, they are in the process of moving to the P25 system.
Okay.
I understand that they signed their agreement just recently, so when they get their system online, then we'll be able to communicate with
So
them.
eventually, all the agencies will be online. So
That-
we
that
have
is correct.
operability, and that's what we were shooting for in the
Yes,
first
that
place.
is correct. And we are online with CJC currently.
Right, that's
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have an introduction and reading of Bill 4249.
I'll introduce it, Your Honor.
Okay?
First reading of Bill Number 4249, an ordinance approving the final plat for Colonial Hills Lot 1, Community of Christ Church, City of Blue Springs, Jackson County, Missouri.
Move the bill be approved on its first reading and proceed with the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Second reading of Bill Number 4249, an ordinance approving the final plat for Colonial Hills Lot 1, Community of Christ Church, City of Blue Springs, Jackson County, Missouri.
Move the bill be approved on its second reading and assign the appropriate ordinance number.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Councilman Levesey?
Aye.
Councilman Fowler?
Aye.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Bowerman?
Aye.
Councilman Cobell?
Aye.
Carried unanimously, giving it ordinance number 4427.
Thank you. Next, we have a discussion and report on the Woods Chapel update. Chris Sandy, our acting Public Works Director.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come in and give you an update on the Woods Chapel Road project and some things that are in the offing. I think I'd like to start with kind of where we started less than a year ago. The contract was awarded on March 5th, 2012. We gave the contractor notice to proceed on April 9th with a total number of contract days of 580. Today is contract day number 288. We're done 50% complete by time, but we are 60% complete by money. Now, the beauty of this is that that's kind of a misnomer, because with the weather being so nice, we have actually probably gotten to where we're closer to 70% complete. Because as you can see, that we actually expect substantial completion in spring or summer of 2013, which is dramatically ahead of schedule, because initially we told you we'd be done in 2014. I'm sure that if you've had the opportunity to drive the corridor, you've seen a lot of the progress. The contract amount was $13,292,237. We have had about $180,000 in change orders, which were related to underground work that occurred, water lines, sewer lines, stormwater. As of January 10th, we'd expended $7,703,315. To date, we have actually completed the storm and sanitary sewer improvements, the water line adjustments that were required. This also included a water line that ran north along Woods Chapel R.D. Mize Road next to the Hidden Point subdivision, which created a loop for that subdivision. There used to be a dead-end line. If we'd had a break south of there, we would have had approximately 250 to 400 houses out of water. Now with this, we can contain it to about 50 residences. The Dunkin Road intersection and signal are almost complete. The only holdup on it is we're waiting for some power from Independence Power and Light. They're making some last adjustments to get us a meter and get the lights turned on. We've completed the Northwest-South Outer Road. We've completed Valley View Road. We've completed the Park and Ride lot, which went into service in December and is being well used. We completed the Northwest 36th Street, which parallels Woods Chapel Road through the new development. And we have most of the base asphalt down for the Woods Chapel Road from the south end of the project up to South Outer Road. These are just a few pictures of some of the projects that have taken place. The top two, the box culvert and the water main, are work that you typically don't get to see. As you might tell, the water line was actually done, many of those projects were done at night, so they didn't disrupt businesses. We only had to supply temporary water supplies to 3 or 4. McDonald's, Quick Trip, those folks that are open 24 hours a day. And then the lower pictures, nice picture of Jefferson Street with the new concrete intersection there, the new South Outer Road, Castle Drive looking north with the base asphalt done, the curbs are in place. It's all ready for a quick coating of the asphalt surface. Park and Ride lot complete with the bus shelter, and the bus is picking patrons up there. 36th Street, as we discussed, and then the street lights that are going up as well. You will note that those poles are silver, and somebody's going to tell me they're supposed to be black, and I will tell you they will be black. Unfortunately, the weather's not conducive to painting them as yet. A few more pictures of Dunkin Road, and if you look in the top right picture above the red truck, it doesn't show up real well, but that is one of the new illuminated street name signs that will be throughout the corridor. So those at night will be glowing. The lower right-hand picture is basically standing in front of Taco Bell looking north at the section of Woods Chapel Road there in front of Quick Trip and Dave's Service, that it's almost ready to go as well. Which brings us to the upcoming components. What's left? We need to do the intersection at Kings Ridge Drive. We've already done the one at Castle, but Kings Ridge was just late enough in the season that we didn't feel good about tearing it out and possibly getting caught short and having to leave it closed. Carlfeld Drive improvements. The radiuses will be pulled back on that intersection to allow traffic to turn in and out more easily and be offer better traffic flow. Of course, the traffic signals for the bridge itself, Kings Ridge Drive and Castle Drive, need to be done. The on and off ramps, which are about 50% complete, will be completed along with that. And then, last but not least, putting in the islands and the barriers for the diverging diamond interchange. That kind of reaches the point of substantial completion, meaning that the drivers will be able to utilize 90% of the road and there'll be fewer impediments to their travel. After that, we will still be doing the finishing touches of completing the street lighting, installing the sidewalks, putting in the landscaping, trees, bushes, and those will happen throughout the summer and fall, along with the weather and the schedule along with that. Which brings us to the next exciting part I have for you. With the fantastic success and the schedule enhancements we've had on the first phase, and I know we've talked about phasing on this project many times, and there's been up to 17, I think, at one time. At this point, we're going to narrow it to 2. We have the current piece that we're going to call Phase 1. Phase 2 goes from Castle Drive to Walnut Street. We had initially put that project in the 2013-14 budget. We would like to move that project up to the 2012-2013 budget, meaning we'd like to start it this summer. The reasons we'd like to move forward are, with the current state of the economy for the entire nation, we know that the Congress and administration are looking at ways to move money around to balance the budget. And one of the items that they can play with is road funding. If we can go ahead and get our projects scheduled and online, we can encumber the funds, and that ensures that we get them and they don't go somewhere else. It also seems that construction is somewhat on the uptick, and as more work comes available, pricing starts to go up. So we would like to jump while the iron's hot and while the pricing is favorable, hopefully to save us some money, better value for the dollar. We're excited about the momentum in the corridor. I think we've gotten lots of good response from the people in the community about it, and we'd like to keep that going forward and not leave a lag in between the phases. And then overall, this will also shorten the impact to Woods Chapel Road and the corridor in general, because we'll be done about a year earlier. In order to do this, we need to shuffle some funding around. Initially, this project was slated to be a $6 million project in next year's CIP. Currently, the budget is at $6.5 million. Part of that is due to a few extra things that we had to add in, or some additions to the railroad crossing enhancements. And then also we're continuing the motif throughout the entire corridor, and that added a little bit more money in landscaping and aesthetics. In order to fund the $6.5 million, we have $2.985 that comes from the MARC funds that we discussed earlier. We also had slated to suspend the overlay and sidewalk program for 2013-2014, realizing that we were going to use that money as a match to the MARC funds. That leaves a gap of about just a little over $1 million that we have to cover. I say $1 million, but with that, I'm going to say that I know that working with our finance department, Christine has been a great help. There are still about $450,000 of unallocated bond money that are sitting there that can help offset part of this. We also believe that since we've gotten through most of the underground construction on phase 1, and that the change orders have been minimal, that we'll be able to possibly save a couple $100,000 on that project, which will also whittle that number down. And then we will pull the balance from the capital projects fund balance. So I say $1 million because I want to give you worst case, but hopefully we're actually only talking about $350,000 or so coming out of the capital funds project balance. This, I apologize, it looked better on the computer screen than it does up here, but if you note, the green box is the 2013-2014 year for the street rehabilitation, and you'll see it's empty because we had planned on not funding that to use towards the $6 million down below. Also down just below that's the $200,000 for the sidewalk budget. And then we show over in the blue box moving or placing $6.5 million in the 2012-2013 CIP budget, which will require a budget amendment, which our finance department will do for us later if you are up for the challenge of moving this project forward a year. Now we get down to the good stuff. This is the current alignment of Woods Chapel Road. Actually, there's a match line here, which is the northern part that's just about from Applewood Drive and then up to Castle Drive. It's a straight shot. I didn't include it because there's not much exciting or fun there. Let me overlay that with the future alignment so you can see the changes that we're going to experience. The first part will be the enhancements to the railroad crossing. We'll replace the entire crossing, and there will be islands on either side to prevent people from trying to jump through the crossbucks as they come down for added safety. The curve just south of the tracks is dramatically softened to make that radius a safer area to drive through. At Mill Drive, we have actually gone over, and in the blue on the underlay, you can see this is the exit or the entrance coming out of Lake Tapawingo, and it doesn't line up well with Mill Drive. part of our project moves it to the north so that you have a straight across intersection so that traffic can negotiate that more easily and more safely. In so doing, we need to do a little bit of work on Dockside Drive, and then also in this area, there's a box culvert that runs underneath Woods Chapel Road, which is going to be rebuilt and enhanced, which dumps into Dockside Drive. Unfortunately, Dockside Drive is about 4 to 4.5 feet lower than Woods Chapel Road, and is susceptible to flooding from the new box culvert. So we'll be raising the elevation of that road to protect it from flooding and protect motorists who are traversing it. Once you passed that point, nice little stretch here along Old Mill Park, and I'm sure many of you have noticed the open drainage area that runs on the east side of the road there. We're going to pipe that and make it a nice gradual slope out to the road, make it a nice amenity for the park, and also safer for pedestrians in the area. And then we also have, at Walnut and Woods Chapel Road, a much-needed improvement of a roundabout. The roundabout will take care of the geometry that currently exists at the intersection. There's a negative reverse curve. There's the way Walnut currently comes in, it makes it a little bit difficult for people to have good vision both directions, and the roundabout will take care of all those issues. So, at the end, this is what you're left with, a beautiful new project. Can I answer any questions?
Any questions? Councilman Fowler?
Yes, if you could, while your map is up there, could you highlight for us the area that's actually not in the city of Blue Springs, but rather in the city of Lake Tapawingo?
Effectively, Woods Chapel Road is split, and the west side, southwest side is in Lake Tapawingo, and the other side is in Blue Springs. We're in negotiations with Tapawingo, which have gone very well, and they've been very easy to work with. The one that they requested was that when we move that line, that it line up on so that the southbound lane remains within their jurisdiction.
Correct. And their contribution to the project is how many dollars?
Unfortunately, Lake Tapawingo is unable to assist in the project at this time. They've had some financial hardships, and they were taken by staff that didn't do it.
Yes, $0. And I don't think that's new information to me, but I did want our citizens to know that we are being an extremely good neighbor to Lake Tapawingo in helping to repair or improve Woods Chapel. I would only ask that they be considerate of our citizens as they pass through Lake Tapawingo. And there's been concern in the past from citizens talking about that section of road. So just want to get that out there.
Certainly.
Any other comments, Councilman?
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, I'm very excited about this. I am pleased to report to you that the lighted signs are working, and they're very cool. In fact, I was going to take a picture of one this morning, but I forgot. So just letting you know that's working well. I think this speaks well to our decision to go with Miles Construction on this project, because I think they've done a wonderful job. Clearly, we're well ahead of schedule, and unless there's a compelling reason not to, I don't know why we wouldn't go forward with the project with Phase 2. Better to get this thing done and get development started in that area, which I think it will be ripe for.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm on board.
Thank you.
Any other comments from council? Councilman Levacy?
Yes, Your Honor, I just wanted to kind of echo Councilman Carter's comments there. I know Councilman Edmondson and myself have been very excited to see the progress, and we are more than willing to continue to move the phases forward as quickly as possible. I think it's serving the residents well to get this project moving as quickly as we can, and it's setting up a framework to allow for more amenities on the west side, which is what we've been looking for from the beginning. So we're very excited about the possibility of moving up the timeline.
Councilman Edmondson, anything you want to add?
I would just say amen on that one. It's kind of nice to actually have an amenity out on Woods Chapel that maybe the rest of the town would be envious of, because I know we've always said that Woods Chapel always seems to be falling behind, so now we're going to have lighted street signs and nobody else will have it, which I think is awesome.
You know, I try to get out and drive it at least once a week. I have not driven it at night yet, which I will. But the one council member that not only observe, but probably participates in its success, Councilman Byerman, would you like to add something to it?
I wasn't going to say anything, Your Honor, but I am particularly pleased, yes. It's been a long process, and working with Mr. Sandy, and I can tell you that the signals are ready to turn on at Dunkin Road. I've talked to IPL, and they would like me there, so that'll be very soon.
Very good.
And we are coming along. So I see a lot of things that you folks don't see.
Right.
And I know Chris is aware of it, and Jeff and all his people. So it is exciting, and you are not going to believe how smooth that traffic flows off of the interstate, on and off, and both to the north, but especially to the south. It is going to be something to be very proud of as a west gate, if you will, to our city. And so,
Councilman Byerman.
thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, I observe it from the comfort of my truck. You're out there in the element, so.
People that might see me honk.
Yeah.
Well, Your Honor, I might as well chime in, too.
Not to be outdone, but
Well, certainly don't want to be the only one to not make a comment. So, I mean, this is exciting. It's particularly exciting that the time frame has moved up so much, because I know our residents have just been crying for this to get done, and it's wonderful, and I really commend you all for your hard work in making this happen the way you have.
Well, thank you, and to echo Councilman Carter's statement, I do have to put a lot of the thanks to Miles Excavating, because they have looked for every opportunity they could find to move quickly on the project, keep it moving ahead steadily, and the weather helped, but without a quality contractor, we wouldn't be here, so.
Well, Chris, I appreciate you stepping in, because I know this is a project that was near and dear to Oliver the Great's heart.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate you stepping in without skipping a beat to do that in his absence. So thank you
sir.
for that. And Mr. Johnson.
Your Honor, I appreciate the council's willingness to let us present this to you tonight, and this is a little bit of a departure from the CIP that you adopted, and so we're presenting to you, although you're not voting on it tonight, an amendment essentially to a plan that you've already adopted, and we have made that, presented that justification and rationale. At some future point in time, we will need to bring to you, I believe, some type of a budget amendment that would relate to the Capital Projects Fund. Christine and her staff will be sorting that out, and we will make those necessary adjustments and bring whatever required action to you at a future point in time. And again, we're thrilled. I drive it every day. I go through it. It's amazing how the traffic flows on that corridor right now, even though it's in a constant state of disrepair or redevelopment. And I've had a number of conversations with business owners who are in the area who either want to be updated or who just need to call somebody at City Hall and bend an ear and perhaps vent a little bit about what's going on, and then need to have the silver lining and say, and I'm happy to report to them, we're 60% done and we're almost a year ahead of schedule. And that gets a lot of mileage, and I think people do appreciate that. So hats off to Chris and his staff, and I appreciate your willingness to let us bring this to you tonight, and we'll make the adjustments in it, and at the future point in time at a council meeting, we'll be asking you to take official action so that we can move these funds around and do this project.
Okay, thanks again, Chris, for your presentation and all the hard work from you and your staff. That brings us to Mural Announcements. The April 2nd municipal elections are set. In District 1, we have Councilman Dale Carter and an opponent, Preston Smith. District 2, Councilman Chris Levacy without an opponent. In District 3, Councilman Bowerman withdrew for personal reasons, and certainly we're going to miss him when he's gone, because he adds a lot of value to this council. But we have Planning Commissioner Susan Culpepper that is running, and her opponent is Michael Freeman. We also have a ballot issue that allows the city to join the Tri-County Water Authority to be able to purchase water. So hopefully that will be successful as well.
Bond issue.
And the school district also has a ballot issue that I'm not totally familiar with, but I know that there will be an issue in front of the school district that I'm sure that you'll be hearing some more about that from them. I indicated at the first council meeting in January, this is Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, I believe, that he would be 83 years old now, had he not been assassinated or killed at age 39. And now this is kind of a tribute to him because I had a lot of respect for him and what he did, not only for African Americans, but for the nation, people of all races and creeds and colors. You know, Dr. King was a resilient leader and a drum major of the nonviolent civil rights movement for equality and social justice. So tonight, I'm going to give you two excerpts from Dr. King. One was a letter from Birmingham, Alabama, that was April 16th, 1963. And I quote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And also on his speech at the Civil Rights March on Washington, August 28, 1963, this excerpt is, "Now, I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulty of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It's a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." End quote. Had the opportunity over the weekend to participate in a number of Martin Luther King celebration. Some people might not know, we have a citywide Blue Springs Martin Luther King celebration at the First Christian Church on 15th and Artie Myers Road, so we were able to participate in that Sunday night. And then last night, I was in Overland Park with the Olathe NAACP for another Martin Luther King and a scholarship program. So it's something that's enlightening and something that I cherish doing in the memory of a great American, Martin Luther King Jr.
Your Honor?
Yes.
If I may, before you jump to visitors.
Yes.
As you know, we recently had our Blue Spring Shop with a Cop, and I have some plaques I'd like to pass around to both Bob McDonald and you, because both of you participated in that, and our thanks to you for doing that. So if you could pass that down. It was a very successful event, and we helped 30 families, children in this community that maybe had a better Christmas because of this, and we thank our partners, and we're doing that now as far as going out and thanking our partners that helped participate in that. And then, Mr. Johnson, I would like to present you with a mouse pad that you might be able to help remember this also, but just a thank you, and we appreciate your support of that program.
Well, I want to thank you for flying back to be able to do that, and you and your wife, Susie. And so our gratitude to you. You've been a real trooper in being one of the leaders in this program along with the police department. And this plaque will certainly join the one from last year in my office.
Thank you, sir.
So we thank you so much for that. One other thing that I want to mention, two other things I want to mention. Since we last met, we have two of our council members that lost their mothers. And so our sympathy continues to go out to Councilman Fowler and to Councilman Quabell. And let's continue to keep them and their families in our prayers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On a happier note, probably won't be after tomorrow for my wife, is our daughter from California, Carla, is here, and she's been here. Our other daughter was here from Atlanta, and she left Saturday, and so Carla's leaving tomorrow. Then Eloise and I will be empty nesters again, but not in a good way, because we've enjoyed having them here. That brings us to visitors. I have one visitor's appearance form from Mr. Newport. Your subject is law enforcement assistance/prosecution. Mr. Newport, I'm going to have you come up. I'm going to allow you some latitude. Now, if we get carried away, I'm going to cut you off. Okay?
All right, cut me off too much, I'll get a declaratory judgment against the city.
You're starting it off not in a good note. So
Well, it's an
I'm
adversarial
going to
meeting.
listen to you for a while.
It's an adversarial meeting. You're not my friend, I'm a citizen, not a subject. Number one, I spent Martin Luther King Day locked up in Blue Springs jail. Why? because somebody was feloniously trying to steal my car. And that when I went out to confront them people's trying to steal my car, I felt threatened, and I fired 3 shots into the ground. That's the kind of life I have to lead, because Mr. Wayne McCoy...
Let's stop pointing,
I can do that.
You cannot do that at this council meeting. You're not going to start pointing fingers at my police officers. If you want to make some statements, you can make it, but you're going to be civil in doing it. Do I make myself clear?
You know, I have a First Amendment right, Mayor.
I know you have a First Amendment right, but you're going to treat people in this office with respect, or I'll have you removed from this council chambers.
I'll see you in court, you keep it up, Mayor. I have respect for you, but I'm a citizen.
Do what you have to do,
I'm
and
a
you're not going to
citizen.
sit here and argue with me.
Well then, okay, then just let me make my point.
You make the point without allegations.
My car was being robbed, sir.
Listen to me. You listen to me. You can make your point, but you're not going to be pointing fingers or making allegations with people, okay? Do I make myself clear?
I won't do it today. I will go to court, and you know what, Mayor?
You do what you got to do.
Right, Mayor, but
you
I'm
do
telling
what you got to do.
I have a right to point fingers.
Make your point.
I have a right to point fingers. That's First Amendment.
Make your point.
That's expressive conduct.
I'm not going to debate it with you.
That's right. Mr. McDonald and I will be debating in court. But here's the thing.
Mr. Newport, you have certain rights, but you don't have the right to disturb this meeting and take it out of hand.
It's not a disruption, and we'll have to have a judge.
Well, no, it is a disruption.
Okay,
So
I'm trying to be respectful. I stopped doing what he asked me to stop doing.
Try a little harder.
Again, I'm not a subject.
You go ahead and make your point.
All right. I had a felonious assault on my property, trying to steal my car. I go out and I have to confront these people, 2 big people, and I had to use a gun. Now, instead of this police department investigating the felony against me, they throw me in jail for discharging a weapon. Perhaps they would like to see me dead, but I don't want to see me dead. That's why I'm an armed citizen. I have a right to be armed, I have a right to my property, and I have a right to tranquility at my home. Now, one reason I've come here is the city has failed to investigate that incident. I sent an email to Bob McDonald explaining what happened. That's one thing. 2, this is the same group of people that's been to my home before stealing things from my car, and I provided the city's law enforcement with a blood sample of these people. And it's been in their possession for 2 years. And they haven't made a decision on what they're going to do with it. They haven't returned my property that it came off of from my car. That's the kind of services I get from the city. And then now, number 2, I have a petition for an protective order from a Mr. DeVore. I got a 6-month protected order against Mr. DeVore, leader of a gang in my neighborhood. Now, I have an interim order for about another 30 days against Mr. DeVore. We're going to have another extension. We're going to go 6 months, trying to get a full order of protection. I've spoke with the city attorney, and I'm asking the city to make a recommendation to the court in your executive capacity as a city, through your executive officers, that it would be in the city's interest that there be a extension of this protective order. Now, why? Because over a 2-year period, the police department of Blue Springs had to be to my home, not Mr. DeVore's home, my home, over 100 times. 100 times. And I think it's funny that they've had to use 2,000 man-hours for me. To do what for me? Nothing. Now, going to nothing, this city hired 2 special prosecutors.
At your request.
Exactly, because Bob Welsh is dirty.
Now, we're not going to get in those calling.
Organized crime.
Now, when the city hired 2 special prosecutors, that was an expense.
Yes, it was. And I agree. Now, here's the thing. What did you get for the expense? The special prosecutor to prosecute Mr. DeVore, who comes to my home with a gun, threatens me repeatedly in front of my family, and at my home, fails to meet with me one time, fails to review any of the evidence, comes to court completely unprepared, and has a sham prosecution. You were defrauded. I say on the record about Attorney Nigro, he defrauded this city because he failed to prosecute with due diligence.
Well, let me ask you this question. What are you asking of the city council?
Okay, what I would like for the city council is I would like to present to either the police chief or Bob McDonald, or whoever wants to take it in your capacity, why I think I should have, or the city should agree to send a letter to the judge or a representative to the judge at the family court hearing, why there should be an extension for 6 months on February 28th of a full order of protection which I was granted. And what I think is it saves the city a lot of trouble. Plus, I'm entitled to tranquility at my home, and I'm not getting it from the police.
Now, let me ask you this question. Why don't you make your case to the judge? Why do you want the city to make your case for you? Why don't you make your case?
Well, I did, and I received, I had the police department's lieutenants telling me to their face, to my face, at my home, how they were going to sue me for defaming the city, how I'm going to jail. They've arrested me repeatedly, and I beat them every time. They asked me, Mr. McDonald right here, he asked me to film these incidents. I go out and I bought the film, and then what happens? I'm prosecuted for stalking.
Mr. Newport,
Back to the point.
I didn't ask you to film anything. I told you if you're going to take pictures of people, they need to be clear enough that somebody can be identified in.
Right.
Let's go back to the point at hand. The point at hand is you came here tonight, ultimately, to ask the city council, to ask city staff to present to the judge a petition of some sort or a letter to extend your protective order.
Correct.
Right. Okay, and my point is, why do you need the city to ask the judge? You're the one that wants to extend the protective order. Why don't you ask the judge to extend the protective order?
Oh, no, I have.
Okay. So you think the city would have a different outcome?
Oh, yeah. Well, executive agencies are given a lot of weight. An agency of the city, if the city were to take an unbiased, objective review of the evidence of what led to the request for the protective order to start with, then the city should say, Mr. Newport is a jerk and he should die, which is what they've been saying so far, or they could say, Mr. Newport is a citizen and he is entitled under the Constitution to tranquility in his home. We haven't been able to provide him that with police because they come after the fact, and that it would behoove the city, or behoove the court, it would be good of the court, put it that way, to continue the protective order because, one, it keeps Mr. Newport and Mr. DeVore from having a gunfight. That's a good idea, not to have a gunfight in my home. Number two, it keeps the city from having to send officers out there dozens and dozens of times, all kinds of day and night at my home. I had a sparkler bomb thrown in my yard late at night. The police came to my home, wanted to know, I'm shooting at Mr. DeVore. I'm not shooting at Mr. DeVore.
Now,
he'd be in real
let's
trouble.
go back to the question at hand again.
Right.
You're saying that you're a citizen of Blue Springs, and there's no denying you're a citizen of Blue Springs. But you want the city to take sides and extend a protective order against another citizen of Blue Springs named Mr. DeVore. The city can't start choosing sides.
Well, I respectfully disagree because the city has already chosen sides. And right now, with the city,
in your opinion?
Well, in my opinion, the city has aligned itself with organized crime. That's my opinion.
I think this is over.
All right. By the way, I am going to sue you. I am going to sue you because you need it.
And
you really need it.
Certainly, as a citizen, you can do whatever you deem appropriate.
Right, because you're not going to help me. You haven't been a help. You've been a hindrance, and I've been Ku Klux Klan'd by this city.
Well, we're done.
Goodbye.
Thank you. That brings us to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no? We adjourn.